Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. On today's video, I'm going to give y'all 5 of my favorite Stephen King films, and most of these films, if not all of them, originate from novels written by Stephen King. And I've read a lot of books by Stephen King, and I've watched a lot of movies by Stephen King, and these are my top 5 most favorite movies. So let's get into it, guys. Before we get started, guys, I want you to hit that notification bell so you don't miss a video. Give me a thumbs up if you like this series that I'm doing about different movies that I like to watch. I know with a lot of us staying home and being home more because of COVID, we have a lot of time to watch movies. Also, these movies are in the 80s and the 90s. These are not like any recent remakes of the movies. These are the 80s and the 90s versions, which I feel are the best versions of these movies, because some of these movies had remakes. I believe actually I believe only one of them has had a remake. But anyways, guys, so like I was saying, don't forget to hit that notification bell, give this video a thumbs up if you like this kind of content that I've been giving you guys, and comment down below if there's any other shows or movies that you want me to discuss. So let's go ahead and get into the list with number 1. Okay, guys, actually only 4 of these movies are Stephen King movies, and well, actually not Stephen King's movies, movies that are based on his books. But the first one I want to mention is a Tim Burton film, and it's one of my favorite movies that I used to watch over and over and over when I was a kid. Why I was so stuck on this movie, I don't know, because now when I look back on it as an adult, don't get me wrong, I still love the movie, but I'm like, why was I so obsessed with that movie as a child? So the movie is Edward Scissorhands with Johnny Depp. And this is a Tim Burton film. It was filmed in the 1990s. I wanted to make sure to write my years down, guys, because I want to make sure that I'm giving the right year for the movie. But this was in 1990. So I'm going to give you just a rundown of this movie and what happens. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. A lot of people probably haven't seen it. And just from the title, I'm sure you're like, Edward Scissorhands, what the heck, if you haven't heard of it before. Okay, guys, so in this movie, yes, there's an actual man with scissor hands. So he lives up in the top of this mansion of this town, where it's like in the town everybody is in everybody's business. Everybody does things pretty much the same way. They're not used to anything weird or out the usual. They don't like change. They don't like different. I say that because I'll, get along why I feel they felt that way in a minute. So anyways, so he lived up on the hill with this inventor or old man that created him, because he created him and he decided to put a set of scissor hands on him. The most cruelest part about it is the day that he finally was prepared to put real hands on him, he died. At first when I saw it, I thought that maybe he had killed him, but I guess he just died. But my thing was always like, looking back, is like, why didn't you give him the hands in the first place? If you can create a whole man from whatever the heck he was creating him from, why didn't you go ahead and put the hands on there? But see, if he did that, then there wouldn't have been a movie. But I felt like that was the craziest thing ever. Like, that was kind of cruel to put those hands on him. So anyway, he dies. And Edward doesn't know much. He was still teaching him about the world, about life and all that stuff. So he dies. He stays up there for Lord knows how long he was up there. I don't know how he ages or what goes on with him. But he ends up getting found by a woman that's selling Avon. Now let me get her a name on here, her mother's name. I don't remember what her name was. It's really not important. When you watch the movie, you'll find out. But anyway, so the woman went up there. She was selling Avon. She found he was all up in the whole house alone, and she thought that it would be a good idea to bring this man that seems like he's lost and throw it off like he's not all the way there to bring him and his big scissor hands home to her house where her daughter is and with her family. So she brings them there. She has a teenage daughter named Kim. I do remember her. Winona Ryder played that part, I believe. Yeah. And so she brought him home. And they try to teach him how to be normal and try to fit him in with society. And everybody's gossiping about him. They don't know what to think about him. They find it strange why she got some strange man in her house, which is actually a good question. Like, why would she bring him? But she ends up having a barbecue, and she invites all the people over to meet the darn scissor hand man that she brought down from the tower. And, so it shows some of his antics. He ends up doing the women's hair, and they end up all in love with him. Like, his hands had the magic touch. They really had the deadly touch, because if he would have slipped one time, he would have killed those women. But there was one woman in particular that was completely turned on by him. I don't know what her deal was, but he wasn't having it, because she was coming on strong. But the movie is just about him falling in love with the Avon lady which I can't remember her name, guys, sorry, that came and knocked on the door and brought him there, and he fell in love with her. But of course, like people do, he was a sweet, nice person, but they ended up running him off because, at the end of the day, people don't like different. And so, once they start turning on him, that was it. So he had to go back up into the tower and live the rest of his days. And like I said, I have no idea if he ages or what, but I guess he lived the rest of his life up there lonely and miserable because the townspeople turned on him. But anyway, that might be the craziest description of Edward Scissorhands ever, and it may seem like from my description of the movie that I didn't enjoy the movie, but I really did enjoy the movie. You should definitely go watch it. It's very entertaining, and the thing is, Johnny Depp really knows how to convey a character. He has played so many different characters, especially in Tim Burton films, and I feel like when he's in a role, he just really brings that role to life. I mean, I don't know who else could have pulled that off. I mean, it was strange enough. But anyways, guys, number one on that list, which was one of my all-time favorite when I was really young, Edward Scissorhands, which is not a Stephen King movie, but it was on this list. It's a Tim Burton film. But these next four are going to be Stephen King movies, so let's move on to number two. Okay, guys, the next movie that I want to talk about is Cujo. It's also a Stephen King, it's based off a Stephen King novel, and it's based off the 1981 novel. And so basically, maybe a lot of you have seen Cujo, but Cujo is one of my favorite movies. Whenever I see a stray dog walking around, the first thing I always think is Cujo. Every time I see a stray dog out, I'm always like, oh, he got rabies or whatever. So anyways, guys, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this movie. I'm sure a lot of people have already seen this movie because this is an older movie. You may have even read the book. But anyway, there's a Saint Bernard dog, which I learned recently that wasn't even a real Saint Bernard dog in the movie. There was a dog that they, put some costuming on. And there was even a man that put on the costume for parts of the movies. And they did a good job because I never realized that it wasn't really a Saint Bernard, or they used a person to do some of the stunts. So anyway, so Cujo is a dog that's owned by a mechanic named Joe, a mean mechanic that has an alcoholic problem. He has a wife and a child. And so they have Cujo. Cujo's a good, happy dog, seems like a sweet dog, until he gets bit by a bat on the nose, running after a rabbit, just being a dog, and he starts feeling bad, getting sick, and everything. And so he develops rabies. And so the other characters in the show, I made sure to write their names down, because guys, I'm bad with names with people on shows, the characters on the shows. But I'm losing my train of thought, guys. I had to get up and fix my daughter's food, and then the dog was staring at me. The dog wanted some food, so she probably was like, why you talking about Cujo? You need to fix my food. But anyway, so Donna. So Donna and Vic, and their child is named, oh gosh, why can't I think of it? Tad. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. Tad. Anyway, so they have a son named Tad. And so Donna is having an affair with one of her high school boyfriends. And her and her husband are going through it. She's having this affair. He leaves on a business trip. They're, you know, at odds with each other. And she goes up to Joe's place to get the car fixed. But what she doesn't know is that Cujo's rabies had progressed and he had killed his owner. And so when she got there, the dog was like wild and rabid. And she got trapped in the car with her son. So pretty much, guys, that's the movie. She's trapped in the car. She has to figure out how to get out the car. Her husband's on the business trip. It wasn't like now where people have cell phones and all that. I mean, he just happened to come back home early and start looking for her because her crazy boyfriend, who wanted her to, I guess, leave her husband for him, had went to their home and vandalized the home and everything. So he put out a police report looking for her, and then they found out that she had went to the mechanic's house, which the sorry police went up there, and he was, I call him sorry because he was no help at all because he got himself killed too. But anyways, guys, so I'll let you watch the movie if you haven't already seen it so you can see how it ends up. I know a lot of people have seen this one, but that's pretty much what happens. So let's move on to number 3. All right, guys, number 3 on my list is another Stephen King movie that well, it's not a Stephen King movie. It's another movie they made based off a Stephen King novel. So it's Pet Sematary, and this is a 1989 movie. And it's the Creed family. Okay, so the Creed family moves to a new town. I believe it was like Michigan or something, because the father is some kind of physician, or he's going to work at a university. And so he gets a new job, basically. And so the family moves, and you have, okay, I want to make sure I get their names right. You have Rachel, and you have Ellie, and then you have Gage. I don't remember what the dad's name was, and I didn't put it down in my notes. So I really don't remember. But anyways, it don't too much matter because you could go and find that out yourself. But anyways, guys, so they move to this new town, and they move next door to this neighbor. And the neighbor is named Judd. Okay, so they move in. Judd comes and introduces himself or whatever. He just seems like somebody who's probably been living on that, you know, in that area for a really long time. And an incident happens where the family's cat dies. Now, he showed the family when they first met. He told them about the pet cemetery or whatever. He told them about it. So their cat ends up dying church. And he decides that it's a good idea to bring this hell and witchcraft into this family's life and take that pet and bury it in the pet cemetery. If you've never watched Pet Sematary, it goes like this. You bury somebody, a pet or whatever, and it comes back, and it's not who you think it is. It's not that person. It's more like an evil spirit that's done invaded the body and just reanimated the body, and the body's not whole like it was. It's like rotten, and you know, they're not the same. They're not the same version of themselves. They're not even themselves. They're just like evil, completely evil now. So he thought with everything, and he already knew that the Pet Cemetery did that. So why he wanted to do that to that family, I don't know. Maybe he didn't want them living in that house, because I don't understand why he felt like that was a good thing to do. So anyways, the family lived close to like really busy road where diesels would come through there all the time and everything. And one of their children, Gabe, ends up running out there and getting run over. And the dad just struck him with grief because his wife is all torn up. The family's all torn up. They lost him. He decides that I'm going to go put my child in that pet cemetery, even though I know how the cat came back, and when people come back, they're not themselves. I don't know what he expected, but I'm going to just tell y'all, it did not turn out good for him. And, guys, let me know in the comments, would you take that risk and bury somebody in the pet cemetery, knowing, especially if you knew what was going to happen, or could you just let that person go? I feel like I will definitely just let that person go before I go bury them and bring back some evil whatever, you know, to terrorize my life. So that's all the description I'm gonna give on that movie. I don't want to give too much of what happens whenever the child is brought back, because there's more that happens in the movie. So you should definitely check out Pet Sematary. It's a really great movie. They did do a remake. I didn't really care for the remake. I mean, I sat through the whole thing and I watched it, but I wouldn't watch it again. I would prefer to watch the original. So let's move on to our next movie, guys. Okay, guys, this is another movie that was made that was from a Stephen King's book, because that's pretty much the theme of this video, guys, is Stephen King books that were made into movies, except for Edward Scissorhands, which was a Tim Burton film. I was going to start the list just naming off a few of my favorite 80s and 90s movies, but then when I saw like the ones that I were naming was pretty much, a lot of them were Stephen King based movies, you know, I decided to just make it that. So the next movie that I'm going to talk about is Thinner. Thinner is one of my favorite movies to go back and watch, because it's just a really entertaining movie. So let me tell y'all a little bit about this movie, guys. Okay, so we have Billy Hellick, and he is a lawyer. He's a high profile, you know, a hot lawyer. You know, he's got the connections. He knows people. He can get away with murder. So he ends up running over a Romanian woman, and her name was Susan Lamke, and her father was named Tadzu Lamke. So he ends up running over her because him and his wife was doing something in the car that they didn't have no business, or he didn't have no business getting it done because he couldn't pay attention to the road, and he killed that woman. So he killed the woman. And of course, because he was a lawyer, he had connections, he knew a police officer, and he also knew the judge. He got off with it. And so Suzanne's father, Tadzu, I'm probably saying his name wrong, Lamke, he put a curse on him. After that trial happened and he got away with it and everything, he came up to him and he kind of just brushed him, and he was like, "Thinner." That's exactly what he said. So first of all, let me backtrack a little bit. Billy Hellick got a weight problem. He's really big. His wife's always on him. I wouldn't say really big, but he's overweight. And his wife's always on him about, oh, you need to diet and all that stuff. And so he was struggling with that. And so he comes up to him and he's like, "Thinner." And so he starts getting thinner. Like, no matter how much he eats and eats and eats, he kept dropping and dropping the weight. And at first his wife was like really happy for him. She's like, "Oh, you're actually dieting," until she starts seeing him sitting there gorging the food and seeing that he was still losing weight. So she tried to put him into this facility. She even talked to one of his people that he knew that he worked with. I don't remember what the man's name was. It's not important, but it was a guy that he felt like maybe his wife was having an affair on him with, because she actually was legitimately concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned about somebody if they were stuffing their face, but you kept seeing them getting skinny, and he would just go crazy with eating the food? So not only did he get a curse put on him, but the police chief and the judge that helped get him off also had curses placed on them. So I'm gonna let y'all figure out what happened with them, because if you never seen the movie, it'll be interesting for you to see the curses that were put on them and how it played out for them. But let's just say it didn't end well for any of the parties involved that was being dirty. So you should definitely go and watch that movie. It's a good movie. It's a good lesson about you could be dirty all you want, but in the end, you're going to reap what you sow. So on the next, let's move on to the next movie. The next movie that I'm going to be talking about is Shawshank Redemption.